Hey, this is Jeff, and today I'm doing a summary of the Fallout 3 Skills Dash Series. If you didn't see that series, it was a challenge run to see how fast I could get all skills to natural 100s with no buffs from clothes, chems, or anything else. Why? I explained it more thoroughly in episode 1, but the short version is because I was curious. There are some minor in-game benefits to doing this. Your skills will be a lot higher than normal for your level, so you'll be able to do some things the game doesn't expect you to. Difficult locks, terminals, speech challenges, that kind of thing. And while this is basically a pacifist run up to level 7, after that, all of your combat skills will be overpowered for the leveled enemy variants the game will be spawning for quite some time. The downside is you'll be wasting multiple perk slots that could have been used for other more useful perks, and you'll be speedrunning or half-assing some quests that really deserve more time. I eventually did it at level 7. I know, even I was surprised. My pre-analysis said it could theoretically be done by level 8, and I failed to do that twice, which is why I'm doing this video. I didn't make it clear enough that it was a challenge run, not a tutorial, so people who were playing along at home were really annoyed when I had to start over, and I made it worse by only showing the restarts from the point where they diverged from the previous run, so you had to jump back and forth between the failed run and the one that was ultimately successful if you wanted to follow it start to finish. Which is what I'm correcting now. The key to success was getting skill points faster than you get XP, so I didn't kill anything, pick any locks, hack any terminals, or attempt any speech challenges unless there was no other way to access a skill book or some other source of skill points. I even planned my route between locations to minimize the number of map markers I picked up, and there was some lively discussion in the comments about ways I could have been even more efficient with that. Most importantly, I only completed quests if they were worth a lot of skill points. Picking up a map marker is only 10 XP, so even if there's only one book in the dungeon, that's a 5 to 1 XP to skill point ratio, which is absolutely worth it. A quest that gives you 300 XP and only rewards you with one skill book has a 150 to 1 XP to skill point ratio, and you simply can't afford that. And I should say up front, I still won't be showing you the location of every skill book I picked up. There's a full list on the Fallout Wiki, there are video tutorials that cover it as well, and there are more than 300 books in the game. If I flashed up one per second, it'd be completely useless and still take more than 5 minutes. If I showed them with any useful level of detail, the video would be 5 hours of that and a half hour about my awesome min-max strategy. But I will talk a little bit about my overall approach to gathering them. I used the wiki list. Well, actually, I cut and pasted it into a spreadsheet so I could keep notes and check them off when I grabbed them. And it should go without saying, you don't want to read any of them until you have the comprehension perk because that doubles the skill points. There were some I didn't get, either because they were mutually exclusive, locked to a level higher than I was going to reach before I was done, unreachable due to a bug, or required doing something with an unacceptably high XP to skill point ratio. Also, there's a respawning copy of the Big Guns book in Bethesda and a respawning copy of the Science book in Shalebridge. So, if a Big Guns or Science book required doing something that would result in any XP at all, there was no point grabbing it because I could replace it with a respawning copy. If they didn't result in any XP, or they were someplace I already had to go for other reasons, I did grab those. The only books on the wiki list that I didn't get were the one in Arafu, which only unlocks if you complete Blood Ties, not worth 300 XP for one book. The only book in DuPont Northeast is Big Guns, no point getting the XP for finding the map marker and picking the lock. Falls Church Metro, book only spawns when you reach level 9. Farragut West Metro Station, Big Guns behind a locked door. 5 Axles Rest Stop, Big Guns, and you can't get it without unlocking the map marker. Fort Bannister, I got the ones in the bunker and the missile silo, but the one in Bannister, Maine is a science book behind a locked door. GNR Building Plaza, Science, can't get it without unlocking the map marker. The one in Hamilton's Hideaway only unlocks if you complete Galaxy News Radio, not worth 400 XP for one book. L'Enfant Plaza, one of each, Big Guns and Science, didn't want the map marker. The one in Regulator HQ is only available if you take the Lawbringer perk, which is locked to level 14. The one in the Scrapyard office is only available if you take the Contract Killer perk, which is also locked to level 14. Sewer Way Station, Science behind a locked gate. The ones in the Raider Fort on top of the elevated highway southwest of the Temple of the Union only unlock if you complete Waters of Life, which I did, and Head of State, which I didn't, because 300 XP for 2 books wasn't worth it. I got most of them from Tenpenny Tower, but there are 2 you can only get if you acquire the Player Penthouse Suite, which I didn't because I got the Megaton House instead, and they're mutually exclusive. I got the ones from the Vault 108 Cloning Lab and Living Quarters, but the one under the Nuka-Cola Quantum near the entrance was unreachable due to a bug. I didn't get either one from Vault 87 because it requires doing parts of the main quest that grant obscene amounts of XP. And I didn't get the one from the Wheaton Armory because it's another big guns behind a locked door. All the rest, the ones I did get, I just went down the wiki list, sorted alphabetically by location so I didn't have to jump around the map willy-nilly, which is not what I did first. So when I grabbed one out of order because it was right there when I was doing something else, I'll try to mention it in the summary, which is a nice segue into what I did do in the order I did it. I started from a save at the vault entrance. If you do that, you must already have the medicine bobblehead and the Grognak comic. If you start a new game, make sure you grab the bobblehead from Dad's desk before you take the goat, take the comic and vault utility suit from your dresser during escape, and don't kill anything. There were at least 2 times during the run that I used the utility suit to pick a lock I wouldn't have been able to pick without it, but there are other ways to temporarily buff your lockpick skill, so it's not absolutely necessary. Anyway, it doesn't matter how you set your special stats in the tutorial, but if they're not already set like this when you get to the Vault 101 exit, you must reset them to Strength 1. Strength is only related to one skill, melee weapons, so every point you take in Strength only gives you 2 skill points. That means we need to completely dump Strength. Perception 8. Perception is related to 3 skills, energy weapons, explosives, and lockpicking, so every point in Perception is worth 6 skill points. We'll need that to be 10 before we're done, but there are 2 permanent buffs we'll get, the bobblehead and a quest reward, so we can start it at 8. Now, endurance, charisma, and agility are all related to 2 skills each, so every point in any one of them adds 4 skill points. It might seem like it doesn't really matter how you split them up, but it does. Endurance needs to be 1 because it's related to big guns and unarmed. We want as many points as possible to come from the respawning skill book so we can use the special points elsewhere to boost other skills. Charisma needs to be 7 for reasons I'll talk about when we get there. Conveniently, that means we'll be able to take the Scoundrel perk, plus it's related to barter and speech, which we'd like to be as high as possible as soon as possible because we need a lot of caps in a hurry. Intelligence 9. Like Perception, Intelligence is related to 3 skills, Medicine, Repair, and Science, so every point of Intelligence is also worth 6 skill points. That means it also needs to be 10 before we're done, which we'll do with the bobblehead. Agility needs to be at least 4 so we can take the Thief perk. I set it at 5 because I needed to save 9 points for luck. Luck needed to be 9 before I was done because while it isn't related to any specific skills, every 2 points of luck boosts every skill by 1. Fractions are rounded up, so it only needs to be 9, which adds 5 points to every skill. That's huge. I realized after the fact I could have set agility to 6 and luck to 8 and raised luck to 9 later with the bobblehead. It wouldn't have made any difference to the outcome, but the extra point of agility would have given me 4 points of wiggle room in the skill point budget. Tag skills, I took barter because, like I said, we need to make a lot of caps in a hurry, and melee weapons and unarmed because having strength and endurance set to 1 means they're starting in a big hole, and we might as well start catching them up right now. Even if you got 0 XP during the tutorial, you level up as soon as you step outside Vault 101. I had a spreadsheet to manage skill points when I leveled up. That was important because, say there's a skill with 20 reachable books, a bobblehead, and a perk that permanently buffs it by 10. That's a total of 60 skill points from all that, so you don't want to put more than 40 points in it when you're leveling up, which once you start collecting books and bobbleheads becomes a major hassle to keep track of, hence the spreadsheet. 3 points in barter, which is as high as it can go right now, 14 points in energy weapons, and 2 points in explosives so we can disarm the bomb in Megaton. And I took the Thief perk for 5 more points each in Sneak and Lockpick. This is what I was talking about when I said this strategy wastes perk slots. I normally never take the perks that just give you bonus skill points because with a little patience you can eventually get your skills as high as you want without them, and you can use those slots for perks that have more useful effects. I went to Megaton, talked to Lucas, didn't ask him for extra money because I didn't want the XP on the off chance that I passed the speech check, but I didn't disarm the bomb yet. I needed the intelligence bobblehead before I did anything else, so I'd have intelligence 10 when I hit level 3 and get 20 skill points instead of 19. I collected some easy loot between Megaton and the river, swam to Rivet City, picked up the bobblehead, sold the loot, and bought the ant pheromones from Cindy. I stole everything that wasn't nailed down for 2 reasons. First, you can get into Paradise Falls without doing the quest for Grouse or bribing him if you have evil karma. And since I was avoiding killing, I needed to engage in petty theft at every opportunity. More importantly, unlike New Vegas, companion kills don't give the player XP in Fallout 3, so having a bodyguard or 2 makes things a lot easier. Most of the possible companions in the game were locked for various reasons at that point. Karon's always available, he doesn't care about your karma, and he totally kicks ass, but hiring him is expensive. 2,000 caps unless your barter skill is 50 or higher, and ours is stuck at 39. The pheromones temporarily buff charisma by 3, which boosts barter by 6, which would make it 45. Close, but no cigar. I fast-traveled back to Megaton, disarmed the bomb, unlocked the player home, and went to Scrapyard for dog meat and the roving trader outfit you can loot off his former owner, which buffs barter by 5, so now I could get it up to 50 and buy Caron's contract for half price. And speaking of the player home, if you use the bed to heal, do not forget to immediately wait 12 hours when you wake up. You can't afford the 10% XP bonus for being well rested. Then I headed to the mall via the tepid sewers. When I exited in Georgetown and got that map marker, I hit level 3. I put 9 points in energy weapons and 11 in explosives, and took another rank of the thief perk for another 5 points each in lockpick and sneak. I went to the mall and bought Caron's contract from Ozrakal, went to the Republic of Dave and picked up the Perception bobblehead, went to Grey Ditch and did enough of the quest for Brian Wilkes to get the Ant Sight perk from Lesko, so Perception was now 10. But I didn't go back until Brian the Coast was clear because I didn't want the XP for completing the quest. Between the bobblehead and the perk, that was 4 more points each in energy weapons, explosives, and lockpicking. Then I started collecting the rest of the skill bobbleheads. I already had medicine from Vault 101, and I knew I wouldn't be getting energy weapons because 10 skill points isn't worth the several thousand XP from all the quests you'd have to complete before you can get into Raven Rock. Most of these locations also have skill books, and I picked up the ones I could while I was there. Barter bobblehead and 3 skill books at Evergreen Mills. Big Guns bobblehead and 2 skill books in the Fort Constantine CO quarters. There are 5 more books in other areas of Fort Constantine, but I had to go back for them later for reasons I'll explain when we get there. Explosives bobblehead from the unmarked bunker near the WKML broadcast station. I got the lockpick bobblehead from the Bethesda offices east, along with 7 skill books in and around the Bethesda ruins, including the first of many copies of the aforementioned Respawning Big Guns book. I went back every few game days to pick up another one from here on out. Melee weapons and a skill book from the Dunwich building. My lockpick was only 47 at that point, but with the Vault utility suit, I was just able to pick the lock on Evan King's door to get the repair bobblehead. Science bobblehead and 2 skill books from Vault 106. Small Guns bobblehead and 3 skill books from the National Guard Depot. There was one more book I couldn't get yet, so I had to go back later. Sneak bobblehead and a skill book from the Yao Guai Den. Got the speech bobblehead at Paradise Falls, and like I said earlier, Grouse just let me in because my karma was evil from all the burglary by that point. After I got the bobblehead, I immediately donated enough money to the church in Rivet City to get back to neutral to prevent regulator hit squads from spawning. And I got the unarmed bobblehead in Rockopolis. Collecting the rest of the books was next on the agenda, and like I said, I did it alphabetically by location, but 2 of the locations in the A's are Wasteland Survival Guide objectives, so I went back to Megaton and started that quest so I could kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Or 4 birds with 2 stones, you know what I mean. Anyway, if you play your cards right, the top tier of the Survival Guru perk gives you 12 skill points for only 300 XP, so completing the quest with all optional objectives was mandatory. The Sly version, which you get by picking the Charisma or Agility option most frequently when you turn in the objectives to Moira, gives you +6 Sneak and Speech. However, there are only 2 Agility-related options in her dialogue versus 7 Charisma options. Her special dialogue options are only available if the related stat is 7 or higher, which is why I said Charisma needed to be 7 when we set our special attributes. There's no way to get the Sly version of the perk with Agility alone, so it had to be Charisma. It might seem like the Smart version, which gives you +6 Medicine and Science, would have been easier because you get it by always picking the Intelligence or Perception option, and they were both 10 at this point. However, because I was using the Respawning Science book to max my Science skill, taking the Smart version of the Survival Guru perk would have essentially left 6 skill points on the table. Anyway, Caron and Dogmeat cleared out the Super Duper Mart, so it was easy to get the food and the optional medicine. I didn't realize it at the time, but there's a key in a metal crate in the break room down the hall from the pharmacy, so you don't need to pick the lock or hack the terminal to get in. There's also a skill book on the pharmacy counter that I picked up, talked to Moira, used the Charisma option, and picked the Radiation task next. Drank enough bomb water to get the optional Deadly Radiation objective, and again used the Charisma option when I turned it in. Went to Minefield, let Caron and Dogmeat kill Arkansas, grabbed the optional mine, and took the generic option with Moira since there's no Charisma option, just Agility. I picked the Meyerlurk study to do next because the Anchorage Memorial is one of the book locations in the A's, but I got enough XP from completing the first chapter to hit level 4 as soon as I left Moira's dialogue. I put 3 points in Lockpick, 13 points in Medicine, 4 points in Melee weapons, and took a rank of Scoundrel for 5 points each in Barter and Speech. Conventional wisdom would say take the educated perk as soon as it's available at level 4 to maximize the bonus skill points, which is absolutely true if you're in it for the long haul, but it turned out in the Skills Dash scenario it was better not to take it at all. 1 rank of Scoundrel gives us 10 total skill points. I was very confident from the beginning that I could get all skills to 100 by level 8, but when I replanned after my second failed attempt, I thought I saw a way to do it by level 7. I didn't want to jinx myself by saying that up front, but if I was right, I was only going to level up 3 more times before I was done, so Educated would only be worth 9 skill points, less than Scoundrel. Picked up the first copy of the Respawning Skill Book in Shalebridge. I know that's not in the A's, but it's just north of the abandoned car fort, which is. Then, just like the Big Guns book in Bethesda, every few days I went back and picked up another one. When I went to the Anchorage Memorial for books, I placed the Observer for Moira while I was there. Conveniently, companion kills don't fail the optional objective to avoid killing any Mirelurks, otherwise that would have been a nightmare. Well, more of a nightmare. Some of the areas are pretty cramped, and if Dogmeat gets cornered by Mirelurks, it can be tricky to get close enough to give him a stim pack. Anyway, I picked the Charisma option when I turned it in, and picked the Injury objective next since I was already pretty beat up from the Anchorage Memorial and it didn't take much effort to get a crippled limb for the optional objective. Turned that in, took the Charisma option again, and only the Mole Rat objective was left for Chapter 2. Did that right away too, turned it in, picked the Charisma option, and told her I wanted to start Chapter 3 with the Arlington Library since it was coming up fast on the book location list. Arlington House has the Luck bobblehead, which didn't do anything for me since the skill bonus from Luck is rounded up and my Luck was already 9, but like I said when I was talking about setting your starting special stats, I could have left it at 8 initially and put the extra point in agility, since I was coming here for the skill book anyway, and the bobblehead would have raised it to the mandatory 9. Got the books from the Arlington Library, which has one of the highest concentrations of books in a single location in the game. The library has a lot of books. Who'd have guessed? Anyway, turned in the quest, no Charisma option, so I picked the snarky one, and told Moira I wanted to research Rivet City's history next, even though it was going to be a while before I got there. When the Deathclaw Sanctuary came up, I went to the MDPL5 power station near Raven Rock out of order to get the dart gun schematic. I could have bought one from Lydia Montenegro, but this one was free, and I was eventually going to have to come here for the skill book anyway. I had trouble finding a venom gland to build it because the game doesn't start spawning a lot of rad scorpions until you're level 5, but there's a guaranteed spawn near Fort Bannister. Which is when the absurdity of this really hit me. Here I was getting ready to go hunt Deathclaws while the game thought I was still too low level to handle rad scorpions, even baby ones. Anyway, I got the skill books from the Deathclaw Sanctuary, but I didn't take the Endurance bobblehead for reasons we'll talk about later. I had to start You Gotta Shoot Him in the Head to get the keys to access the remaining books in Fort Constantine, but you don't need to complete it, so you can avoid the XP. However, one skill book in Fort Constantine is behind a very hard locked door. No key, not even the special keys you collect for Crowley open it, so I needed to collect all the lockpick skill books first. Picking the lock on the storage room beside the Germantown Police Headquarters shooting range was enough XP to hit level 5. I put 10 points in melee weapons, 3 points in repair, and 7 points in small guns. And I took comprehension as the perk so I could actually read the books. I couldn't get the lockpick book from Vault 108. It's supposed to be sitting with a Nuka-Cola Quantum on a stepladder behind some crates, but it always glitches through the scenery and ends up on the floor under the ladder where you can't reach it. You can supposedly blow it out of the hole with a grenade, but I couldn't do it, and I used a lot of grenades trying. After I got all the lockpick books, I read them, got the keys from Crowley's former Merc buddies, and went back to Fort Constantine. Because I couldn't get the book from Vault 108, I was 2 points shy of lockpick 100, but I was able to temporarily make up the shortfall with the Vault utility suit. Which did mean I was going to have to put 2 points in lockpick when we leveled up at some point, but I had a little bit of wiggle room in the skill point budget, so that was okay. And like I said, I didn't go back and tell Crowley, so I wouldn't get the XP for completing the quest. When I got to Little Lamplight on the list, I skipped it. If I knew for sure I could unlock a book by starting a quest without having to finish it, I was doing those as I went. Quests I knew I had to complete to get associated books, or if I wasn't sure, I left to the end. The idea being that I'd prioritize by XP to skill point ratio. So, my first pass through the list, I skipped Little Lamplight, the National Archives, Oasis, Our Lady of Hope Hospital, the Ranger Compound, and the Statesman Hotel. I also skipped Scrapyard because I wanted to wait and see if the random encounter that gives you the key for the container they're in would spawn, and Old Olney just because I didn't have the heart to make Karen and Dogmeat fight Deathclaws twice in one episode. I had gotten most of the books in the National Guard Depot when I was there for the Small Guns bobblehead, but there's one more in a locked bunker you can only access with 4 of the Keller family transcripts, so I collected those and went back to the National Guard Depot for the last book. The one in the scavenger's footlocker in the barn near Reclining Groves was tricky, but unlike Vault 108, I did manage to get the key out from under the bus with a grenade. When I went to Rivet City for the books in Pinkerton's lab, I did the optional Wasteland Survival Guide objective while I was there, turned it into Moira, picked the Charisma option, and the Robco Factory was the only task left. I wanted to be absolutely sure I could tack the terminal for the optional objective, so I read all of the science book I had at that point. Went to the factory, collected books, reprogrammed robots, turned in quest, used the Charisma option with Moira, which completed the Wasteland Survival Guide and got the top tier of the Sly version of the Survival Guru perk for +6 sneak and speech. I started the 10 Penny Tower quest to get access to the book in 10 Penny's suite, but just like those, and you gotta shoot him in the head, I didn't complete it. In fact, I don't think I really even needed to start it, since I ended up pickpocketing the key off the guard. When I got to the end of the list, I broke the bad news to Karen and Dogmeat that we still had to go to Old Olney. The XP from finding that map marker pushed me to level 6. 8 points in small guns, 5 points in sneak, 7 points in unarmed, and for the perk took a rank of gun nut for 5 points each in repair and small guns. After that, I went to Underworld to start Riley's Rangers. I knew I had to start it to get the book in the Ranger compound, and I was pretty sure I wouldn't have to finish it, but I left it for the end just in case I was wrong. But I wasn't. I got the books from the Ranger compound, Our Lady of Hope Hospital, and the Statesman Hotel, and then never went back to the Ranger compound to give Riley a status report, so I never got the quest XP. Same deal for Stealing Independence. I was 99% sure the quest isn't complete until you turn the declaration over to Abraham Washington, but I left it to the end just in case I was wrong. I got the books from the National Archives, and then didn't turn in the quest, so I didn't get the XP. Then I was into the quest you definitely have to complete to get skill points. The best XP to skill point ratio by far is Oasis, where there's only one skill book, which you don't even have to complete the quest to get. But Use Bear Charm gives you 10 points in speech, and to get that, you do. So, 10 skill points for 300 XP. And it's worth noting that even though it's an inventory item, it gives you a permanent increase like a bobblehead, not a temporary buff like armor. You get the points immediately when you gives it to you, and you don't lose them if you drop it, which is why it works for the challenge. At that point, I read all the books I had complete collections of. I could have been reading them as I went, well, after I got the comprehension perk, but doing it the way I did served as a double check against my list to make sure I hadn't missed any. Out of the ones that were left, it didn't matter which ones I picked up, it only mattered that I get the most books for the least XP. And after crunching the numbers, it turned out that the best ratio was to do Tranquility Lane in the Waters of Life, going straight to Smith Casey's garage to bypass the first few parts of the main quest and get 6 books, 12 skill points for 1300 XP. The XP from completing Tranquility Lane pushed me into level 7. I put 2 points each in energy weapons, explosives, lockpick, and melee weapons, and the rest in unarmed. And for the perk, I took another rank of gun nut for 5 more points each in repair and small guns. I went to Rivet City, started the Waters of Life, got a good laugh from Dogmeat sniffing Janice's butt, got 2 books from the Taft Tunnel, 2 from the Citadel, went to Little Lamplight and got 2 from Murder Pass, and turned around and went home. There are 2 more in Vault 87, but as soon as you go through the door, it completes picking up the trail, and we definitely couldn't afford 800 XP for 4 skill points. Oh, and like I said earlier, I had decided before I even started that I was going to have to skip the energy weapons bobblehead in Raven Rock because that would require also completing Finding the Garden of Eden, which combined with picking up the trail would have been a total of 1800 XP for 14 skill points. Not that much worse a ratio than Tranquility Lane and Waters of Life, but the raw amount was too much for the XP budget. The last books I got were from the locked container in Scrapyard because the random encounter that gives you the key never spawned, so I just had to accept the XP from lockpicking. At that point, I just needed a few more copies of the Respawning Big Guns book in Bethesda, so I used the wait key to get them, which left me tantalizingly close to straight 100s, and the specific skills that were short were no accident. The skills that I left 1 or 2 points shy of 100 were the ones associated with the special attributes I hadn't collected the bobbleheads for. So that's what I did next. Agility from Greener Pastures for 2 more points each in Small Guns and Sneak. Charisma from Vault 108 for 2 more points each in Barter and Speech. Strength from Lucas's house for 2 points in melee weapons. Endurance from the Deathclaw Sanctuary for 2 points each in big guns and unarmed. And there it is. All skills, natural hundreds, no buffs from chems, clothes, or other temporary effects at level 7. with 135 XP to spare. So if I hadn't been able to get the scavenger's key out from under the bus with a grenade, I could have picked the lock and still been under. Two last things worth pointing out. First, if you have broken steel installed and you want early 100s in your skills and straight 10s in your special stats, the strategy's the same, just don't grab the 4 special bobbleheads at the end. You'll get all skills to 100 at level 8, and you'll still be able to take the almost perfect perk at level 30. Then grab the remaining bobbleheads for a truly perfect character, straight 100s and straight 10s. If you want to do that, you either need to set your starting luck to 9 like I did, or set it to 8 and save the luck bobblehead to the end too, but then you probably won't hit straight 100s in your skills until level 9. And finally, at the end of episode 3 and in the New Vegas Skills Dash, I talked at length about what I see as the difference between cheats versus exploits, so I won't beat that dead horse here, but if you don't like using the respawning skill books, you can skip them and do everything else the same, and you'll reach straight 100s at level 9. And that's it. More than a little bit late, but you finally have a complete summary of the successful Fallout 3 Skills Dash strategy without skipping around between previous episodes. As always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, leave a comment, and I'll see you soon.